Welcome to APTN Weekend News. I'm Leanne Sanders. The English River First Nation and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan gathered in Saskatoon to reveal the results of their ground-penetrating radar search at the site of the former Beauval Indian Residential School. Brent McGillivray has more.
Based on the stories that have been shared in our communities, and what we found was heartbreaking and devastating. To date, there are 93 unmarked graves, 79 children, and 14 infants.
Vice Chief Jenny Wolverine said the data confirms what survivors reported for decades.
Most, if not all, of these unmarked graves are believed to be children, and at least 14 of them are believed to be infants. And this is based on the measurements of the soil disturbances that were detected by the GPR.
Don McIntyre has been coordinating the ground searches with a team of elders from the community and GPR specialists to search the cemetery that once belonged to the school. The community of Beauval gathered together to mourn and grieve the past after the discovery of the potential unmarked graves almost a month ago. McIntyre said elders responded strongly to the news.
Their immediate response was shock, and then there were tears, and there was anger. Many survivors felt re-traumatized, and many were triggered into reliving the horrific memories of their childhood.
Treaty Commissioner Mary Culbertson says finding the identities of these unmarked graves is not an easy endeavor for any First Nations across the country, despite the records made available to the nations.
We offer support through searching through archives, through trying to access Catholic school records. And at every step of the way, it has not been easy.
Vice Chief Richard Durisher said the effects of the schools are still being felt today. Poverty, drug abuse, and intergenerational trauma.
These are the things that our communities, our people, have to go through every day. And yet society asks, what's wrong with you guys? I turn the question around. What's wrong with you guys?
He hopes that the country will acknowledge the effects that the Indian Residential School has had on the community members to this day.
Canada has to acknowledge not only what happened in the residential school era, but what happens every day in the justice system, in the health system, in the hospitals, in the courts, the unjust that our people have, and yet we're trying like darn to bring our children up in a good way.
Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Chief Bobby Cameron is calling for justice for the survivors of residential schools across the country. He says legal action should be taken and wellness centers built.
To force them to build healing and wellness centers at those locations. To make those sites, those locations sacred.
Culbertson echoed that.
These are ugly truths that we have to come to grips with in this country. Whether we like it or not, this is happening. These are being unveiled. And Canada, with all its human rights records for helping other people, we sure don't look in our own backyard enough.
Vice Chief Jenny Wolverine emphasized, this discovery is just the beginning.
The discovery of the graves earlier this month was just the first step in what will continue to be a long and difficult journey.
Brent McGillivray, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A Quebec arbitration tribunal has ordered the reinstatement of an orderly who was fired following the death of Joyce Echaquan, the Atikamekw mother of 7 who live-streamed racist remarks from her caretakers at a Joliet hospital shortly before her death. The arbitrator said in his decision that the orderly, Miriam LeBlanc, made inappropriate remarks towards Echaquan, but concluded that while she deserved to be sanctioned, she was not the only or main person responsible. Arbitrator Serge Brault ordered the health board to cancel the termination and give LeBlanc back pay that she's owed minus a 6-month unpaid suspension. Patrick Martin-Menard, the lawyer representing Echaquan's family, said that although they have mixed emotions about the decision, their priority is systemic change.
The main and most important thing to retain from this decision is the broader systemic context, which is exposed in the decision. And for that, the family is happy that the decision has recognized these points that I have just mentioned. And it further underscores the need to continue the work to make sure that systemic racism ends.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll see the difference a group of young people from Broken Head First Nation are making in their community. Welcome back. Rising food costs have put a strain on food banks across the country. According to Harvest Manitoba, the need for its service has gone up 150% since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. As Tamara Pimentel reports, youth on the Broken Head First Nation are working to supply their community with fresh produce to combat food prices.
2 years ago, this land was nothing but a field of weeds. Now it's supplying fresh fruits and vegetables to the members of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation just north of Winnipeg.
It might not look like much right now, but give us a couple years and we're going to have more and more acres, so it'll be great.
Hayden Gilmore and Corey and Colin Pangman are part of a food sustainability project at Broken Head with the University of Manitoba and the community's Employment and Training Centre. While working toward a diploma in agriculture, the three are also focusing on cultivating the community's food sustainability. This is the first year of harvesting, and so far the farm has brought corn, zucchini, squash, and cucumbers to Broken Head's food bank. And this haul, 100 cobs of corn, will fill some shelves at the local grocery store.
We're just trying to provide an alternative, healthier option for our community with all the rising prices nowadays.
With food prices soaring, so is the need for food donations. In Winnipeg, Vince Barletto with Harvest Manitoba says there's been a demand like never before.
We've had a 150% increase in food bank demand in Manitoba since the start of the COVID pandemic. Most of that has actually been in the last year and a half as we've seen those inflation numbers rise and rise. And the other big difference is that the demand for food banks now is very broadly based. We're seeing seniors, people on fixed incomes, social assistance benefits, and 1 in 4 food bank users today are people with jobs.
Barletta says roughly 40% of food bank users in Manitoba are Indigenous. Once a month, Harvest Manitoba supplies food to First Nations across the province, including Broken Head. But the band's economic development manager, Brenda Greyeyes, says that doesn't always include fresh produce.
We don't always get a lot of fresh vegetables from Harvest. It's usually canned goods, some milk items, some yogurt items, but not really fresh vegetables. And we do have like a 70% diabetes rate in the community. So just being able to provide farm fresh food to our community, it's something that's really going to impact our families for years to come, I believe.
The new farm is in its early stages.
It's a way of life that needs to be brought back because we can't just rely on the industry and importing all of our food. We've got 13,000 hectares of land here. It would make sense that Broken Head would invest in farming.
With water and hydro just installed and over 150 fruit trees planted by the students, the farm is expected to expand and feed the community of nearly 600 residents for generations. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Broken Head, Ojibwe Nation.
September's here and kids are returning to school across the country. But the transition isn't easy for children who go to class without the right supplies. Sav Jonesa talked with some Winnipeg organizations that are making sure children are prepared for learning.
A new school year is right around the corner, and that means new books, backpacks, and stationery for students returning to class. But not everyone can afford the long list of back-to-school shopping.
I think that when you sign up for anything or where you're expected to be anywhere and you don't have the right tools or the right equipment, it creates a hesitancy to be there because you just feel unprepared or you feel less than.
Daniel Hidalgo is the founder of the Winnipeg nonprofit Community 204. 2023 is the second year they're collecting school supplies for children in need throughout Winnipeg.
Our drive is called Community Kids, and basically what our goal is to do is to provide full, complete backpack sets with school supplies to families that are really struggling with financial barriers, resource barriers, and just access to the things that they need.
Hidalgo hopes to collect 50 backpacks filled with supplies this year, after doubling their goal of 20 last year.
50 is not the limit, it's just kind of the goal. It's always good when you surpass limits because it really speaks to people's desire to help, but also the fact that you're able to extend your reach that much further.
He says something as simple as binders and some writing utensils can go a long way.
For children, it's always super exciting to get anything new, especially when it belongs to you specifically, right? So there's always that level of excitement and enthusiasm, and they're just elated to open up a bag that's theirs and have possessions that are theirs and kind of organize it the way that they want.
For remote communities, the challenge to gather school supplies is even greater.
Driving to a store that actually has the backpacks and school supplies that they need, it's not always possible. A lot of these communities are fly-in or about 2 or more hours away from, a big box store like Walmart or...
That's Amanda Stoke, outreach manager for True North Aid. They've been sending backpacks filled with everything a student needs to remote communities on a large scale since 2020.
Last year we were doing shippings by ferry to British Columbia off the coast. We were shipping to Nunavut through barge.
This year, True North Aid is donating 2,500 backpacks to 14 communities in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. She says the need is so high, even the thousands of backpacks they purchased can't fulfill the demand.
My hopes is that it just gets bigger and bigger because, again, like the requests were more than what we could provide, unfortunately. So I hate the thought that there's kids that are potentially going without school supplies.
Stokes says she is grateful for all the donors who contribute to the program. True North Aid receives no government support or grants.
I love that people are able to connect with the program and want to be able to support, kids going to school and are thinking of kids in remote communities so that they're, getting a good head start. Because the inequities in the education system for Indigenous kids is completely, it's too big of a gap.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Last month, the community of Akwesasne said goodbye to one of their own. Brian White was a volunteer firefighter and former host of APTN's Res Rides. During the funeral, dozens of people, including first responders from neighboring Cornwall, Ontario, came out to honor him on his final ride. Maricela Amador reports.
Brian White, a dedicated volunteer firefighter for over 25 years, died on July 17th, leaving behind a big hole in the lives of those who knew him.
Brian White was the man. Incredible asset to the fire department. Lived right across the road from the fire station. He knew that boat. He knew the way it sounded. He knew where every equipment was. The boat here at the station, that was his boat.
The Hogansburg Akwesasne Volunteer Fire Department planned his funeral. It was attended by the Akwesasne Police, the RCMP, and the Cornwall Fire Service. Isaac McDonald, the fire chief, said that White was passionate about firefighting and truly loved the brotherhood. After his sudden passing from cardiac complications, the department decided to plan a procession as tribute to his years of service and contribution.
City of Cornwall lined up as an honor guard. their entire career staff, on-duty staff that were there that day, participated in an honor guard, and we had our members as an honor guard to remove Brian for his final journey.
White's brother Lance said the funeral was the ultimate send-off and showed a great deal of respect.
We're all going along. We just come into the water, and we're coming around the corner of the east end of the island. And at that time, because it's very loud, it was the fan boat we're in, and just two eagles. They just took off as we come around the corner, and it was a surreal moment.
Lance described his big brother as a charismatic, tough guy with a heart who always had a grin on his face. He said he always looked up to him.
I admired his passion for the fire department and what he did. It was his thing. You know, he liked his cars. He liked his action, I guess.
As a dedicated firefighter, he was always the first one on the scene. But that might be because he lived right here, where he also made his TV debut. White, who was a car enthusiast through and through, was also the host of APTN's show Res Rides, which documented his life at Mad Mohawk Custom, a custom car shop.
One time we were out in Cornwall and somebody recognized him in there. And they pointed to him and he looked at it, and right away they said Res Rides because, you know, they did see it.
His mom Becky said White was very creative.
Looking good, huh?
And had an entrepreneurial spirit.
I was forever buying solar things. I said, go green, and that's what he did. He went into solar panels.
In 2010, White opened Mohawk Sun.
Using the power of the father to protect the gifts of the mother. I like that saying. That's cool.
His nephew, Philip White Cree, said he was an inspiration and was involved in community affairs.
My uncle was always involved with community and different ideas that he wanted to move forward, whether it be with the family or somehow bettering the community, and also making sure like his passions were there. And one of them was definitely cars, and the auto shop and Res Rides was something that he was always beaming about.
But the most important thing in White's life was his family.
Let me say cheese. Huh. Cheese.
He leaves behind 4 kids, including his 16-year-old son, Landon Prier.
Every time I'd talk to him was car rides to the gym. That's probably what I miss the most, because I'd socialize with him at that. It makes me feel proud that he was my father.
Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Akwesasne.
Condolences to the family on their loss. We have to take another break, but when we're back, the youth chief for the Southern Chiefs organization in Manitoba is quickly making change in her community. We'll tell you more about it. Welcome back. Just a few short months since being elected as a youth chief for the Southern Chiefs organization in Manitoba, Trayshel Bunn is wasting no time making an impact. A member of Birdtail Sioux Dakota Nation, the 23-year-old University of Manitoba student has an impressive and growing list of accomplishments.
Trayshel Bunn is gearing up for the second annual Reconciliation Run that she started. It's Canada's first ever half marathon for truth and reconciliation on September 30th. It grew out of a healing walk that Bunn organized in 2021, inspired by the discovery of the 215 suspected unmarked graves in Kamloops and by her grandparents' own residential school experiences.
My uncle Donald said that when he attended the Beauval Residential School, he wanted nothing more than to just run away and go home.
The upcoming run starts at the Beauval Residential School and ends at Birdtail Sioux First Nation. For this year's edition, around 213 kids from her nation will be sporting new Under Armour shoes at the run, thanks to Bunn and her connection to Canadian Running Magazine and its partnership with Under Armour, two organizations that promote running.
With the 215, it was very symbolic for people to, put children's shoes out, and the shoes kind of had that connection there. And then I also wanted to make sure that the run was accessible to, youth within my community so that they had running shoes, and it kind of tied together well. So I kind of proposed the idea to the Under Armour Canada team and said I'd like to use the donation to give every school-aged child in my community a brand new pair of shoes, and they really loved the idea.
Bunn and fellow youth chief John Dory of Saugeen lead the SCO Youth Council, which will be setting its priorities in the coming months. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg. A Mi'kmaq couple from Eastern Quebec competed in the Amazing Race Canada this past spring. The show is still airing, and as of right now, they're still in the game. Amelia Fournier met up with them to talk about their experience.
Amanda LaRocque and Devin Kondo Mitchell are used to pushing themselves to their limits. But it was a whole other level competing on the Amazing Race.
If you want to test your relationship and you want to see if you're going to make it, I mean, join the Amazing Race because it's going to test you at every level imaginable.
Devin and Amanda live in Geskabegia, where Devin works as a conservation officer and Amanda works as the head of public health of the community.
They're turning around.
Why?
They were able to put themselves to the test in a race across the country, which Devin said helped him grow.
Get out of your comfort zone. It only make you stronger, and that's the only way you're going to grow in life, is whenever you're uncomfortable.
When she's not working or spending time with Devin and her 2 kids, Amanda is a traditional powwow dancer.
We had a couple dance challenges so far, tree dancing and swing dancing. I think that helped a lot, knowing some of the basics, I would say, but that helped me. My dance helped me, actually.
They were able to use their adventurous spirit and traditional teachings to make it through the race.
We come from a nation of resilience. You know, we've survived colonization. You know, we're still thriving today. We still have the language. You know, I can speak my language that's been under colonization for over 500 years.
Devin and Amanda say their experience on the show made them stronger as a couple.
We just persevered and became stronger as we went, because we started to work on our communication skills and we knew how to talk to each other, and the weaknesses started to show, and we picked on that. And we just, after every leg, we would just conversate on like, how can we better ourselves throughout this race and get stronger together.
Devin, who is originally from the neighboring community of Listugush, says that he felt proud to be part of the first Mi'kmaq team to compete in the race.
It's a huge responsibility because we're representing a whole nation of Mi'kmaq people, and we don't want to do our people wrong and stuff like that, and we just tried the best that we could.
Amanda and Devin have received overwhelming support from their communities and some light teasing.
The only thing I'm getting is like, I hope you have an amazing evening, or I hope you have an amazing way home. So they'll throw roadblock jokes and detour jokes.
She noticed that we were First Nations, and she said she was honored for us to be running the race.
Amanda and Devin said they felt supported by First Nations across the country.
The love and support that we're getting from Turtle Island right now is absolutely unbelievable, and we're super grateful for that.
It's a delicate balance as teams hang on for a spot in the semifinals.
You can catch Amanda and Devin competing on the Amazing Race on CTV Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Emilia Fournier, APTN National News, Geskabegia, Quebec.
An amazing couple. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you'd like to see these and many more of our stories, head to aptnnews.ca. Good night.